back to the SinSters podcast. This is Noodles. Hi, I'm the crazy British one. And today I've got with me Betty.
Hello.
And I've got my friend Chibi.
Hello.
And I invited Chibi on today because Chibi has experience in the area I'm talking about, that I am very fascinated.
As in, I've been there.
Yeah, he's been there. I haven't, so he's better to bring in for this. The topic we're talking about today is the Catacombs of Paris. What do they call them in French? Is it Catacombs de Paris?
We say les catacombs.
Oh, there you go. We're going over them. So I've got a little bit to read about them, and then I'm going to ask Chibi some questions about his experiences there.
Yay!
Okay, here we go. The Catacombs of Paris are underground ossuaries in Paris, France, which hold the remains of more than 6 million people in a small part of a tunnel network built in Consolidate Paris ancient stone mines. So basically it's this massive amount of tunnels, like the network underneath Paris, extending south of the Barrière d'Enfer, the Gate of Hell, also known in English, a former city gate. This ossuary was created as part of the effort to eliminate the city's overflowing cemeteries. So basically it's like a mass underground grave, is the general gist. Preparation work began not long after 1774. A series of gruesome Saint Innocent Cemetery Quarter basement wall collapses added a sense of urgency to the cemetery eliminating measure. So a lot of stuff underground collapsed. Got that.
Yeah, it did. Basically, a lot of stuff collapsed, and just imagine like your the subway in Paris is very rarely above ground. It's mostly below, and at some point they had to stop the construction because one of the workers just like went digging for basically the subways.
Mm-hmm.
And a flow, like it just pierced a wall, and a flow of corpse and bones and skulls just like spilled everywhere.
Oh my God.
In the tunnels. So they had to, I don't really recall when it was, but it was around the time they built the subway.
Yeah, it says here around 1786 was the bunch of stuff, but in 1874, in the early 19th century was the renovation and construction stuff, it says.
There was a lot of incidents, basically. Yeah, and basically while they did that, they had to move all these corpses, so they were in Paris, basically, just imagine like big convoys with just dead things in it. Well, I can't even imagine the smell.
Oh.
So yeah, that was my take on all of this, and I have nothing to say more.
Wait, so they were like fresher corpses?
It's not really fresh. It's just like, but I mean, if you put bones in a very tight space, even if it's underground, I can imagine like there has to be kind of smell.
Yeah, it's like gas pockets.
And
Yeah,
I'm sure that they didn't all start out as bones. I mean, there was probably some freshies in there.
Freshies.
I don't think there was actually what you would call freshies. But I don't think, no, I think in the catacombs it was basically it was a boneyard, not a graveyard.
Yeah. Okay. It remained largely forgotten until it became a novelty place for concerts and other private events in the early 19th century. After further renovations and the construction access around the Place des Francs Rochereau, I'm butchering that.
It's the place d'Enfer Rochereau.
It was open to public visitation from 1874. Since January 1st, 2013, the catacombs number among 14 City of Paris museums managed by the Paris Musées. Next bit we're going to go into is the more interesting bit for our viewers, is it's widely believed that the catacombs are haunted and or they lead to the Gate of Hell, amongst other nefarious things apparently believed to live down there, to chase people, to try and hurt them. There's also stuff about criminal activity, but I'll get into that later. There's many cases of people going missing in the catacombs, the most famous of which was footage that was found in the early 1990s on a camcorder of a man documenting his exploration in the deeper parts. Where his camera was found, he never was. The Footage gained popularity when a few TV shows, most notably a Halloween special on ABC Family in the US, covered strange and creepy things, decided to find the man by retracing his steps and routes that were found on the video. There was also a show called The Scariest Place on Earth that was on the Sci-Fi Channel, and that covered the same events. The most recent missing persons event around the catacombs was in 2017 when 2 teenagers were thankfully found after 3 days inside by rescue dogs. They were treated for hypothermia and mild dehydration, but they were perfectly fine afterwards. No other information has been released about those 2 teenagers, by the way. There was nothing said, like, what they've experienced or seen or anything. Like, they've remained completely anonymous, which, is perfectly fine. There was a movie, but there's been multiple movies, but one of the most, notable ones is As Above, So Below. It was directed by John Eric Dowdle and co-written by his brother Drew. It also gained attraction to the catacombs, kind of, introduced more tourism when it aired in 2014. It's been a controversial movie as far as I could find. Some native Parisians were not too happy about it.
I'm going to be on record and say it's shit.
There you go. There's your evidence. There's been a lot of things found in captured footage within the catacombs, are quite creepy. An example is, in 2014, Parisian police were assigned to do a training exercise in previously uncharted part of the catacombs beneath Palais des Chalots. I hope I have not ruined that one. Entering the catacombs through a drain, the officers came across a sign that read "Building Site No Access," and a bit further in, a camera that actively recorded images of those who passed into the chamber. As the officers approached the camera, a recording of dogs barking was triggered. The police descended deeper into the tunnels and discovered a 500 square meter cavern with a fully equipped cinema, and that included a giant cinema screen, projection equipment, chairs, and a handful of films, from noir classics to recent thrillers. Someone had turned this abandoned underground cavern into a secret amphitheatre. Aside from this, in the next room, the police discovered a fully stocked bar and restaurant, complete with tables and chairs. And the discovery left police befuddled, not to mention the professional installation of electricity and 3 phone lines. Yep. 3 days later, the police returned with experts from the French Board of Electricity to try and figure out where the power was coming from, and the cables had been cut and a singular note was lying on the floor that read, "Do not try to find us." And then
we're out. Don't even try. We're gone.
that was more largely to believe criminal activity, but I've got this thing in my head that that's some 20-year-olds just getting drunk and having a good time.
Not gonna lie, I think it is.
Yeah.
From what I've seen and from what is described, I think it's just young people that had a ton of fucking money and they had the idea to do this.
Fair dues. Okay. There's been a lot of history around the tunnels during war times as well. You can find many indications of this, such as graffiti dating all the way back to the French Revolution, written on the walls in the tunnels. There's been things from World War II and Nazi Germany. There's a lot of evidence of people being in the tunnels during wartime, using it. Been evidence of Nazis in the tunnels found, and there's been evidence of the British and French and even Americans at some point. And so that is everything that I had written down about it. Our guest today is Chibi.
That's me.
He's a lovely native Frenchman who lives in Paris and has visited the catacombs before. Again, why I've invited him on. And I wanted the input of someone who's been inside, because we haven't. Do you have anything to add, my dear friend?
I have nothing with the fact that she said lovely. She improvised.
Yeah, okay, sure. All right, Betty, do you have anything you want to say before I get onto the questions?
No, I mean, I was thinking about it, the footage. I know what footage you're talking about with the guy who had dropped his camcorder and then they later found it. Mm-hmm. The footage itself, it looks as if he's walking through, and honestly, what I think happened is that he got lost, he got disoriented, because you see him at one point scream and run away from his camera. Mm-hmm. I think he probably got lost, got dehydrated, and there's no telling what kind of spores or whatever is down there, which could trigger some kind of like psychotic episode, or maybe he had some type of, mental illness to begin with, and something just triggered him to freak out. And
To be honest, I don't think there's, because just to bounce up the spore ideas, I don't even think you need spores. It's just like there are like public areas which are good because there's light, there's everything you need. But once you're in a cave and you're alone in a cave, and it's not really a very inhabitable cave. It's not a big area as you see when you just like go and visit caves. It's more the area you see when you are an explorer and you go and there's like very tight caves. Sometimes you have water down to your knees or up. You have to squeeze through tight spaces. You don't breathe very well. You don't see the sun. You don't even know what time is it basically because you don't see the sun. You don't feel air. It's always the same temperature. So that's what makes you loony, and that's what make a lot of people loony down there.
Yeah, because you have no context of like the real world at that point.
Exactly. There's no ventilation. I mean, there's a couple of shafts of ventilation for the deeper like tunnels they found, and you can see a little bit of sunlight at the top, like on the found footage thing, the ABC thing. They actually showed that he found a tunnel that led straight up, and you look through, you could see sunlight. But he would never have been able to scale it because the walls crumbled as you touched them.
Right. And, I mean, I can see how he would freak out and, take off running. So, I don't think anything was chasing him.
There's been people who've argued, though, with that found footage particularly, that if you watch after he drops the camera and he runs, there's a second set of ripples in the puddle, as if something had stepped in after him.
Well, I mean, it may have been, a rat or something.
Yeah.
You would think that, humans aren't the only ones going down there.
Yeah, like he dropped something.
Oh, rocks.
Yeah, that too.
Sorry, I'm gonna be the Scully of the band.
That's fine.
Because as I said to you, I don't believe in everything. I believe in some things unreal, I think, but I don't believe it's particularly haunted. But I do believe that a lot of creepy things happen because it's a dark corner of the earth and creepy things tend to happen there. True. I just don't think it's haunted. I think it's creepy.
Yeah.
That's my thing. If you want to believe it's haunted, just believe away.
Okay, so questions. We've already talked a little bit about you, so... Okay, how many times have you been inside the catacombs before?
How many times? I think about 4 or 5 times. 2 of them was in the circuits.
Yeah.
The legal circuits. And 2 to 3 of them was in other parts.
Oh, terrible. Naughty. I mean, were you allowed to go in there, or was it, like, kind of naughty?
It's kind of illegal. It's actually definitely illegal.
Okay, I won't ask you to say more.
I kind of wonder if it's illegal because of a safety issue, like...
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would make sense.
It was made illegal in the 1990s. It was 1992, I believe.
I think I'll talk about it more when it comes to this question.
Yeah.
There's a lot of very good reason why it's illegal.
Okay. Alright, so when was the last time that you were there?
It's been a while. I think last time I was there was like maybe 5 to 6 years ago, maybe more, because I'm getting old, so I don't have the sense of time anymore. Yeah, maybe 7 to 8 years.
Can you tell us what the tours are like? Like how long they are?
What the tours are like? The tours are like, I think it depends. You can have like some free areas. You have some tours. I think it's like maybe 1 hour, 1 hour and a half tops. What it is, it's very informative. If you just want to know about the place, definitely take the tour because the guides are awesome. It's just the right level of creepy. It's not like Haunted House, but it's just like they're gonna give you a bit of creepy stories. I think you might like it. It's not my thing because standing and listening to people is not really my type of thing.
Fair enough.
But it's definitely informative and good. And if you come to Paris and you like creepy stuff, go into Catacombs.
All right, sounds good. I definitely want to go. Although then again, I'm claustrophobic, so I don't know. I'd have to see.
On the tours, I think you would be fine.
Yeah.
On the tours.
Okay.
When you go on the tours, are they like really touristy? Like
Yes, it's tourist. They won't make you climb and squeeze and go underwater and shit.
So, I'd be fine with that.
I can just picture like a cheesy little gift shop, with T-shirts.
Yeah, there is.
Friends went to Paris, and all I got was a shitty T-shirt.
Exactly, there is.
Oh, that's so bad.
But it's because they have to make the place live a bit. So,
yeah.
But they're still good. It's not like they took something with really no interest and turn it into some touristy things. It was a touristy thing. It actually has always been a touristy thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of the Eiffel Tower or anything else. It's really, I really don't mind because actually, if you see the touristy parts of the catacombs, I think that has to be maybe 10% tops of the catacombs themselves.
Yeah. There's only like a very, very small amount because they're so vast, like they go under the whole of the city.
Yes, and it's also because there's a very small amount that is, how to say, civilized.
Yeah. Did you ever experience anything when you were in there, in the tourist area or the non-tourist area, that was particularly creepy and has haunted you a bit?
I think to answer that, I'm going to have to go a bit in more depth in what the non-touristic area is.
Yeah, go for it.
You have the touristic area, and you have this whole set of caves, of corridors, of dimly lit things with tunnels that caved into one another, that crumbled, that just like one tunnel just crumbling onto the other tunnel below, or just tunnels that were created by smugglers and other things like that during the years. So you have all this, which is uncharted territories. And I'm going to do uncharted territories, and I'm doing air quotes with my fingers, because it's actually a bit charted. You have all this ragtag group of misfits called the Cataphiles.
Yes.
And all those people just, they try to map the thing, but they also want to be very discreet because it's still illegal. So you have like very hush-hush maps. No map is complete, basically. I haven't seen, maybe because I didn't search for it, but I haven't seen like a complete map of the thing. It's more like, okay, I have my entry. I know my couple of points of entry, and I know how they meet. I know how they interact. I know how they, but I'm not like, I'm still learning. Everybody's still learning about where to go, how far you can go, and what's every time.
Yeah.
If you want to go for any reason in the illegal part, I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, because you can do whatever you want. You are a strong and independent woman. I'm not stopping you. But if you do, just seek the counsel of such person, because getting lost down there must be terrifying.
Yeah.
Absolutely dreadful. I mean, as I talked before, you have no way of just, is it day, is it night? The temperature is the same. The air is, it's not vicious, but you can't breathe really normally because there's very few aeration.
Yeah. It feels thick and heavy.
Yeah, basically, and you have a lot of ways that are, I'd say, very creepy, but also like you are doing speleology. You have water down there, and there are some ways where you have water like above the knee, even above the waist. And I think I'm sure if you go down deeper into it, you have lakes under like small lakes, something like that. It's really like a different world that is
Yeah.
down there.
It's been referred to before as the city under the city.
Yeah, it is but also because you can actually go from one point to the other of the city by going through the tunnels. I think that's why there's all this mythos of like undercover smugglers
Yeah.
and of having like criminal activities,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't really believe, besides maybe some drug dealing, but not intense for a very good reason. It's like it's very it's not really how to say it's not easy. It's not practical to do that down there.
Yeah.
There's no real reason to do that down there besides secrecy, but it's secrecy you can actually have in really good places.
Fair
So
enough.
why does it there instead for decorum?
Unless it's like more said to discourage people.
Yeah, but if you want people to come and buy your shit, why make it like to discourage people, you see?
No, I mean like from everything that I could find online was saying like it's very commonly used by people who would smuggle, like in history it's been used by smugglers, and in modern day it's more commonly used for like drug smuggling, as you say. But I think maybe you have a point there in that that's not actually true, and it's just being said to discourage people from going into the illegal parts in the case they meet a drug dealer that will hurt them, like to scare people.
Oh, maybe, but I think maybe, yeah,
Yeah.
it might be true. So basically, I think you asked me if I encountered things down there
Mhm.
that stuck with me. I'm not really impressionable.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go all tough and shit. It's just like I don't believe in all those. I'm way less comfortable in the woods than in the catacombs. But I think what kind of stuck with you is like you're walking and you don't have a lot of how to say, you don't have a lot of light, so you're walking and you crush something on your feet and you go like, oh, that must be a rock, and you look and it's actually a skull, and you go like, shit, it's not like a novelty skull. It's like a real skull from real humans that you just crushed. And I was like, oh, sorry. Yeah, I went very British at this instant. And there's things like you just walk into like very tight corridors and it's very claustrophobic and you're like, oh, it's sick and shit. And then the way opens into a vast room, which is kind of what you see in illustrations, which I'm sure you're gonna show on the video of the big rooms with all the bones, and you go like, oh, because seeing it in a confined, touristy, safe environment is something, but seeing it like underground with no supervision, you go like, oh shit, there's like way more of that when it came from. So that kind of stick with you a bit.
Yeah.
This and the time that I had water above my waist because I don't like things that live in water.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Leaves an impression because you can feel like those are real people.
yeah.
Yeah.
But what's creepy is also like basically the people are creepy down there for a reason. It's like you don't know when you're gonna meet some people. You don't know what they want. You don't know where they are. You don't know if they are like police, even if I think police do very rarely raids down there for obvious reasons, because there are better things to do. But also because even if they're not police, it might be drug dealers. It might be things like that. And you don't know. You feel like pirates, and you don't know if they're going to respect the code or not.
Yeah, I get that. Like a kind of uneasiness and fear. I get it. Yeah. Okay. Next question. Did you ever watch the movie As Above, So Below, which you said earlier is shit?
I did. It's shit. It's like very shitty because I'm not a fan of found footage. So that's that. And also, I'm really not a fan of how to say, it makes the catacombs seem like something else that they really are.
Yeah.
It makes them seem very unsafe, very. But I mean, I get it. It's not even what I have against the movie. It's just that it's bad. It's not really about the fact that it's about the catacombs. It's
Yeah.
just that it's a bad movie. Don't watch it. Watch a better movie.
It feels like disrespectful in a sense.
I don't know. It's not even disrespectful. It's disrespectful to cinema, but not to the catacombs.
Point taken. All right, I'll move away from that. Save your heart. Okay. All right. So onto the cataphiles that you mentioned earlier. From what I could find on the internet, which is probably some information that I've come across is very tailored, I would say, from what we're talking about. Cataphiles are commonly referred to as parties that have been known to take place, and it's apparently an older tradition, but I wonder if if it still happens or like.
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
It does. I mean, I haven't been there for 8 years, something like that, but I know it does.
Ooh.
It's not something that's gonna die out, I think.
Yeah. So it's like that cinema room the police found.
Yeah, basically. I think it's just like 90% of the time when you're down there, the people you're gonna meet are just people there for the fun. Because it's fun to go in places you don't know. It's fun to go in places that are said to be haunted. It's like the same fun you have when you're watching a horror movie. It's the same feelings you have when you do urbex.
Yeah.
But in this instance is like something happened.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to make up a story in your mind because the story is already there. It's like corpse and corpse and corpse.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's why, but it's sorry, like to break out the myth, but I don't think it's more than just people having fun down there. And yes, there are parties, even if I think it's not like, don't expect like a big sound system and just like a party in a flat, but it's in the catacombs for obvious reasons, because the noise would be very disruptful to the place.
Mm-hmm.
That would attract a lot of attention that you don't want to.
Yeah.
And I think it's also because you would create heat, and that's not going to go well with the place also, whether it's going to be suffocating or something like that. I think the party it's more like, I don't know, 6 to 7 people going to have drink, listen to a bit of music, and that's it.
Okay, well that's good to know in a sense. I mean, it's not a fully stocked theatre and bar, but it's something.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even saying that it doesn't happen. Maybe it does.
Yeah.
I just haven't been invited.
Oh man, I think maybe you just went to the wrong parties. That was it. You were invited, you just went to the wrong ones. The only other one I can say is the one about the teenagers that went missing. Do you feel that the teenagers like going down there, because it was a boy and a girl, I kind of assumed it was a couple thing. Do you feel like it's more of a couple thing?
I don't know, but I think we discussed this, and I said like, it's not like a lot of people. It's very easy. That's what it is. It's very easy for this type of places.
Yeah.
To go around and put a layer of legends.
Yeah.
Above it. Sometimes you do it because you want to keep people out. So it's going to be the legend of big underground mafia things. It's going to kill you.
Yeah.
Sometimes you want to build the legend because you want to be, bigger. If you want to say, oh, yes, it's haunted, but you're the one going there like every weekend. So it's like, oh, he goes to this sacred path and he knows the path and everything. That's a legend for you.
Okay.
And sometimes you just create legends because you want to, to build a story, a top of a story, which is just very plain. 2 teenagers got lost in a cave because they were dumb.
Yeah.
Because they were dumb. I mean, if you...
That sounds about right.
If you haven't been to a cave before or anything, it's like very easy to get lost.
Yeah.
It's a very, very, very easy thing to get lost down there because it's basically a fucking maze.
Yeah.
And it's not even like a good maze where you can go back to the exit by seeing around and shit, because it's actually a terrifying maze where nothing is in its place and you have no lights and everything. It's like top difficulty of it. So basically, yeah, don't go there without a map, and even if you have a map, don't go there if you're not with a cataphile at first, because he or she will also be able to give you pointers in case you get lost, because they have the habit of doing this. Just don't be an idiot, man. I mean, it's common sense, and I'm not even saying like, oh yeah, go there with Surge to burn because spirits and shit. It's just like, yeah, don't be an idiot.
Okay.
That's common sense.
Words to live by.
That's the most important thing. And I can assume that it's probably really easy to get lost in there because, like, I mean, I was in a state park once, broad daylight, and I got lost. So I can imagine if you're in a cave.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, that's pretty much everything I've got then. That's all my questions answered. Betty, is there anything you really want to know?
No, not really. I mean, I can only assume like people are probably drawn to it and want to go there for, the same reason that people like to hang out in cemeteries in general, because it's almost like a cemetery. I mean, there's a cemetery here close to where I live in Atlanta called Oakland, and I mean, people they have tours, you can go through it. They have, and they set up like dinner parties in the middle of it all the time, and they have during Halloween, it's called the Zombie Walk, where people just dress up as zombies and walk through the cemetery, and it all raises money for like the upkeep of the cemetery. Yeah, it's not inherently creepy or anything, but of course it's above ground. So,
it is.
completely above ground. So I can imagine that
it's like the closest thing you can get to being close to a dead body that you don't know, without being it inherently creepy and going to the funeral of somebody you don't know. It's just like the safest way to be next to a dead thing.
Human fascination with death, yeah.
Well, I mean, we're all gonna die, so let's just bring it down.
All right. Happy thoughts. I'm gonna put in a picture of something cute. Let's live with that.
Like a happy kitten.
Yeah, let's put that on the screen. There you go. Enjoy. Okay.
I'm usually the one that brings the room down, though.
You're fine. Don't worry. Okay. Well, I think that wraps everything up pretty much. I'm happy with everything. You're happy with everything. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Welcome. It was a pleasure.
Merci beaucoup.
If you go back at any point and get lost, let us know.
Yeah, no, well, he can't if he's lost.
Yeah. I don't get lost. I don't go there.
All right, then. Thank you so much. And move on now to our discussion. And that concludes our interview with Chibi from a couple of days ago. And now we're all back together, all three. Wait for SinSters for discussion. Betty, Nat, what do you think about Les Catacombs?
Well, first of all, I want to say that it's all about Chibi's voice.
Oh, hell yeah.
The subject itself is very entertaining. However, it's the voice.
Always the voice.
Always the voice.
Cut down.
But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting system that they have there, and it's interesting to just think about it because, I mean, there's so many bodies down. Well, bodies. It's so many bones down there. It's a massive, massive thing, and just the scope of it seems completely unreal to me.
Yeah, I mean, like, it covers most of Paris. It's literally a city under the city. It's absolutely, like, enormous. When you think about, like, and how many people get lost down there and how easy it is to get lost because it's so big, and, like, they don't even have all of it mapped.
It's estimated that there is around 320 kilometers, which is about 200 miles of tunnel, and that's just the ones that are mapped. That's not all of them.
Can you imagine being the person who's, like, had to add up the fucking number of miles of those tunnels, though? Like, realistically.
No, thank you. I wouldn't want to do that at all.
Just some poor fucker sitting at a cartographer's table just like, and this is this long, and add this. Oh god, no, I'd hate that.
Or like, or worse, like, ah, shit, I did this wrong. I have to redo it again.
See, that would be my life. That would totally be my life. You're like,
Mm-hmm.
well, I just screwed that up.
So it makes you think, like, is it as big as they, as they map it, or like, is it more deeper than we think it is?
No, it's bigger. Like the people who dedicate time to like mapping it. There's like the official mappers, and then there's the unofficial mappers, which are cataphiles, and like they've all said like they map so far, and then there's further tunnels than where they've been.
Hmm.
That's crazy.
And deeper too.
It's an elaborate like quarry system
Mhm.
up underneath. That's where it's a quarry, and that's where they made the tunnels and everything to get the stone out, and it just keeps going and going and going. It it kind of reminds me of of like The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, and the dwarves. They may have dug too deep. I mean, we never know. There might be a Balrog down there.
I think the most interesting thing is when you like hear about the parties that go on down there.
Mhm.
I thought that was quite an interesting thing, especially the little tidbit about the police found like freaking phone lines and like a whole cinema.
And it wasn't just like regular phone lines, like, Jimbo ran some cable down there. No, it was like professionally done.
Mhm.
So there was somebody who knew what they were doing that ran the electrical and phone lines down there.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna lie, I would actually love to go to an underground party over there because I really think it's gonna be really lit.
Oh, absolutely. I'd be down. Be like, okay, we're going to watch some horror movies, and we're just going to chill out with the dead folks.
Oh shit.
They were basically the only types of movies they found down there as well. Like they literally only found like horror movies and noir movies, like all like old fashioned stuff. Like they had everything creepy that you would want was there, ready.
That would make sense.
Yeah, it's the perfect setting to watch like creepy movies. Like you pretty much on the ground, dark, and you never know. Like, oh my gosh, it's totally the best place to watch scary movies.
Yep, those cops had to go bust up the Halloween party. I don't know what the problem was. But that's not actually the only parties that they seem to have down there. Apparently, people have been making it a habit to go and find pools of water
What?
that, kind of collect down there, and they go swimming in the dead pools. Like,
What? You're saying
come on.
you say Deadpool's and all I can think of is Wade Wilson.
I know. Maybe that's where he got his name from.
Oh shit.
Um,
Oh my gosh.
he swam in a dead pool.
Oh my god. That makes so much sense. Oh my god. We solve it, guys. Everybody can go home with
Yeah, that's it. Close up shop. That's what But yeah, I mean, I will do some, crazy stuff I know I used to in my youth. I don't think I'd go swimming in a random thing of water that I found in a catacomb.
I mean, like, could you
That's just
imagine the bacteria in it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that's just asking for a crazy UTI.
Like,
True.
I'm getting flashbacks to that freaking Twitter story we come across and the Ebola. Wash your hands.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that made me paranoid.
Mhm.
I was cleaning my hands like for 2 weeks straight. I was cleaning my hand like crazy.
Yeah, it's just.
Samantha Cunningham knew what she was talking about, guys.
Yeah, she didn't go swimming in any pools of dead bodies. Jesus Christ.
Absolutely not.
But like, if you think
But
about it,
that
maybe that's where that's where the waters come from. Is from like all the bodies that have rotted. Because there's a lot of like we're 80% water if you think about it.
Well, I mean, it probably seeps in through the aquifer also.
Mm.
So there is that, but I mean, it's mostly bones down there. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't know. It's really weird. It's really weird.
Just thinking about it is just, I feel like throwing up, honestly.
Chibi said he'd been in one of those parts with like water and stuff, and it's kind of suffocating down there and everything. Like, think about the combination of it being like damp, because like there's that whole thing, isn't there, when you like you cover a cloth in like damp water, if you put it over your face, it's really hard to breathe. Don't do that, by the way. But like, you know, like it's hard to breathe because the water fills in all the air holes and the cracks, so which makes it even harder to breathe down there. Which is like when you like that found footage of the guy who went missing, like that he's probably suffering from a lack of oxygen because the air is so damp and like musky and like dirty and everything. Like, there's no wonder that he's losing his freaking mind.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't go into the catacombs myself. I really wouldn't, because like I'm asthmatic, for starters, which wouldn't go very well.
Plus, you'd be kind of breathing in bone dust.
Yeah. Watching that video was like extremely horrifying, and you know, I know what you guys are saying, like, you know, suffocating and like going like, you know, maybe like starting to panic and everything. But you guys know me. I prefer to think that it was something more sinister, like he saw something horrifying down there. So
Tell you, Balrog.
he started running away because he saw something sinister.
He heard Gandalf in his ear telling him to fly, fool, and he took off. Balrog. I'm a nerd. I'm sorry.
There's pretty much nerds around here.
But like Chibi was saying, like when he's been like he doesn't believe in any of this stuff, and like, you know, he's been down there, it doesn't feel like particularly creepy to him. But then you've got like, you know, there was that freaking special on ABC, and there was another one on Sci-Fi. Like, people are obsessed with this place, and I think the other reason like why people are drawn to it and have parties, like I kind of touched on it at the end of the interview, was like humans have a fascination with death, and like we all want to believe that there's something in the afterlife. Like, we don't want to just believe like this is the end, like this is all there is. So of course, like, there's a natural want, even if it's something sinister, to think that there's something after death. And like, I can't help but think that maybe like if but you know, if there is something after death, like what if it is all nasty shit, and like that is just like a little tunnel, like hundreds of little tunnels filled with horrible shit, and people are just going down there for shits and giggles.
I mean, it's possible, and I mean, that's the thing about, that's probably one of the reasons why people are so obsessed with, you know, the macabre, is that, you know, none of us really truly know what's going to happen after we die. Like, what happens if anything happens? I mean, are you just blinked into non-existence? Or is there an afterlife or whatever? And even people who have, you know, died temporarily and come back, when they like tell stories, sometimes I don't really believe them, because then there's been people who, you know, same thing, they died, they were dead for several minutes, and they're like, no, nothing, I didn't see a light, didn't see nothing. You know, it's like, so who do you believe? So,
I don't know, the one who seems like a better person.
Yeah, yes.
The one that is not gonna lie at all. At least you think it's not gonna lie.
So I mean, it's one of those things that we all kind of want to know, but then we don't want to know. So maybe that's the reason people like to go to places like that, is because you're close to death, but you're not, because it's bones. It's not like, you know, rotting corpses around you. You know, so you're on the periphery.
No freshies down here.
No freshies, no freshies.
Yeah, no, that's not comforting at all. I don't want to know.
There are things alive down there, though. I mean, apparently in the beginning of the 19th century, there was a couple different people who were farmers, who were mushroom farmers, who actually started growing mushrooms down in the catacombs.
What kind of mushrooms?
And button mushrooms.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yep, just regular old button ones. But yeah, apparently they grew really well down there because of it being dark and because it was humid. So that's kind of weird.
Yeah, it really is.
I would just refer to them as corpse mushrooms.
Corpse mushrooms. Like,
Yeah.
It's the ideal place for mushrooms to grow, though, isn't it? Because it's like, it's damp, it's dark, it's like musky, like that's everything that a mushroom wants to grow.
Yeah, it's a fungus. It wants to grow in, you know, an environment like that.
And you could just walk down there and be like, I sense something. What do you sense? Is there the ghost down here? It's like, no, there is a fungus among us.
There's a fungus among us.
I'm so sorry, that was the worst dad joke.
It happens.
So it's so dark and cold, just like my soul.
Nah, that is literally the opposite of you. Shut up.
But maybe just like your soul, it also has decorations, because apparently also down there, a lot of the people, when they were actually filling up the catacombs in the 1780s, after priests had come and said a prayer and blessed everything, the workers started arranging the bones, and so there was big things that were like hearts or circles with designs in them, and there's actually one very large pillar done up, and it's called the barrel, and in the room that it's in, they just kind of call it the barrel room.
Yeah.
But it looks like a giant barrel, but it's
made of bones.
Like femurs, and then skulls, and then vertebra, and then more skulls, and then more femurs, and it's made into a barrel, and they actually use it as a support for the ceiling, and they've got crosses and stuff around it. It's quite pretty. It's creepy, but it's pretty. So Nat, is your soul also decorated?
Oh yeah, sure. It has hearts, glitter, Christmas decorations.
Rainbow stickers.
Kittens, unicorns.
Yes, it has all of it. All of it.
Could you imagine though, you die and let's say there is an afterlife, and there's some people who believe that you stay with your corpse, that's why your corpse has to stay intact. And, could you imagine you're sitting there in the afterlife, and next thing your arm disappears and it just arrives in a giant pile somewhere?
Oh God.
The kind of person I am, if somebody was able to take my body and make some art after I die, knock yourself out. I'd be like, yeah, that's cool.
Look at me. Do you see that? You see that? That's me right there. Don't I look awesome?
Oh,
Yep.
So have you got some more facts for us, Betty? I believe you're reading us some facts occasionally.
Yeah, I'm kind of peppering them in here. There's apparently in 2017 there was a wine heist that took place.
Ooh.
A gang of French thieves drilled through the limestone walls of the catacombs into a nearby vault, which was located under an apartment building. It contained around 300 bottles of vintage wine. The thieves made off with all of it, and it totaled 250,000 euros.
Hang on. That is literally the most French thing I have ever heard in my entire life.
I
They
know!
drilled into the catacombs.
That's definitely so French.
To drill out of the catacombs to steal wine. Why not just rob a bank and buy all the wine you want? Why? What?
Don't know. Well, I mean, it's vintage wine. You can only get, vintage wine from certain places.
So that's so French. That's even Chibi would sit here and be like, "That's so French."
Yeah. You can just picture him down there swigging wine, smoking cigarettes.
We've talked a couple of times. Me and Chibi's my friend. I've talked about this before. But, me and him play games together and everything. And him and my other friends that I talk to that are French with him, there's another guy called Noodles who's awesome. We've sat there and talked, and they've been like, "Yeah, no, we don't touch English wine. It's disgusting." I'm like, yeah, our wine's crap.
Having had English wine, I have to agree.
Oh, our tea's alright though. Hang on.
Yeah.
Sipping the tea.
Sipping the tea. Something else that I found interesting is that apparently the catacombs were used a lot during World War II.
Yeah, I touched on that earlier. There's graffiti and everything from back to the French Revolution.
Yeah. Members of the French Resistance were active in the underground tunnel systems, as well as there's evidence that Nazis were actually using it also. At one point, they even used it as a school, which is unique. Before the catacombs were, introduced as a burial place, the original hot spot to be buried was the cemetery called Les Innocents.
Mm-hmm.
It was the largest graveyard, but that was one of its biggest problems, is that it was one of the largest one, and the fact that it was so overcrowded, and there was a pungent smell of just death and just decay that emanated from it, and people were getting sick because the bodies were improperly buried.
Yeah, that's why they started the catacombs.
Yeah. And it was overflowing to the point to where there was a massive flood that happened.
Yeah.
And bodies just washed up and took on down the street. So that was one of their, hey, we got to do something. Could you imagine? Well, I mean, that happened in New Orleans. Like, a lot of coffins would just kind of roll, float down the road.
There I was, just walking down the street when a corpse could swim and past a dum did do.
Exactly.
Imagine being one of the persons helping to build the catacombs. Just imagine that. That must have been so disgusting. Oh God.
Yeah, like you'd have to take partially rotted corpses and relocate them, and this was like before machinery.
Mm-hmm.
This was
they would take them down in carts. They would load them up in like push carts and push them down there. And I read that part, and the only thing that I could think of was fucking Monty Python. Bring out your dead.
Yeah. Oh God.
I'm not dead yet. I was like, this is so disrespectful.
I think that's partially like why, like the whole, like why the cemeteries were overflowing in the first place, because it was just after like the Black Death, wasn't it, or the plague?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the plague.
So the plague,
which is the Black Death.
Yeah, like the bubonic plague, which is like why there was so many corpses and why they were overflowing. They were like, you know what, fuck it, let's shove them all down the tunnels.
Exactly, because it was like, what, a third of the European population was wiped out due to the plague.
Yeah.
And, combine that with poor sanitation anyway.
Yeah.
Because, Paris wasn't this gleaming, shiny beacon of, sanitary bliss. It was just like any other crowded city.
Yeah, like I remember reading like about the bubonic plague in school, and like there was this one segment we went over where it was like in the street. I don't know about Paris, but in the streets of London, there was like wells in the streets where people would tip their human waste out the windows into it, and then you would have horses going up and down the street, pooing and peeing as well, and basically the streets of London were just filled with like human and animal feces 24/7.
Exactly, just excrement everywhere.
And it would like get brushed out like once a week at most.
Yeah, and you gotta think, a lot of women and men, for that matter, women had the long dresses, and men walking around with pants that may or may not be hemmed. And so then they're tracking that filth into their house every time they walk in anywhere. It's
And this was before like the whole revelation of hand washing as well, if memory serves right.
Or just proper bathing. They would only bathe like once a week.
Yeah, and you think like, someone's dealing with that, like say they change their shoes before they go to deal with like a midwife comes in, changes her shoes to go through the house, and then goes to help deliver a baby with all that shite on her fingers.
Exactly.
Like, hell no.
Well, with all that happening, more people started getting sick, but just for different reasons. Like, can you imagine?
You know what? That time period, though, it's an interesting history, and it's interesting, just topic, really.
Yeah, it's very interesting, but mostly it's just so depressing. Like, it's so sad that in that time period, like, all that happened, especially to like all those innocent people too. Like, it's really sad.
It was nice to have Chibi on, like someone who has lived in Paris for a long time, has been in the catacombs, has gone in with friends, seen parts that he shouldn't probably have seen. But like, it's nice to hear a first-hand experience.
Yeah, first-hand accounts from people is interesting and fun.
And he's a cool dude.
Yeah, he seems like it. And we like doing interviews anyway. So
yeah, and all of our lady listeners are probably extremely happy right now.
Yeah.
Or our male sexually attractive oriented audience.
Yes. Equal opportunity. Anybody might find him sexy.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yes, definitely. I mean, I know I was happy.
Chibi is to me like the French son I never had. Oh god. So, you know, like if I'm his protective mama. I'm joking. I'm joking. But yeah, he's a cool dude, and I have to tell him off all the time because like he's cheeky as all fuck.
But that is so you, Noodles. You always gonna be Mama Noodles.
True. Eat your damn noodles. Okay, moving on. So yeah, I think that pretty much concludes everything today. You guys, anything you want to add, or we think we're good?
I think that pretty much wraps it up. The only person we haven't heard from is good old Kevin. So, good old Kevin. Do you have anything to add, Kevin?
I'm disappointed.
Well, we should have expected that.
I'm not even surprised anymore.
No, not really.
Pretty much. I always suspected.
Yep, you know.
Okay, well, I think that concludes everything for this week. Thank you, Chibi, for coming on. Thank you, Betty. Thank you, Nat. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Doggo.
That is my doggo in the background. He wants to be heard.
And we'll see you next Sunday. Bye.
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 Barf, barf.